So I gotta clear out some room on the phone, but before I do, while I can kind of talk clearly, see, I can use very complex words. I have a very large vocabulary that was testing through the roof during childhood. I am very complex in the vocabulary I use, but the words that I like to use right now, I can't. There's been an ongoing problem that's been getting worse after head injuries. So, anybody who's not a stupid fucker should know that if you're found on the ground with a concussion, your brain's swollen, and your face is looks like Frankenstein, all swollen out. I looked like the mask guy from the movie Mask with his face all swollen. That's what I looked like, and this is happening to you over and over. You're left overnight on the side of the road bleeding on your head another time. And you continue to get head injuries, and you've had 25 years of problems moving your body and epilepsy. You've had seizures without knowing they're called seizures. You've had seizures, you've had overdoses, you've had horrible things happen to your body, and teachers have noticed this. I, as a child, did not notice these things. But I did not have the words for them, so I had to learn every word in the fucking dictionary. But now I have a problem. Now I want to use these words, but my nervous system won't connect properly when I try to use them. And they're words I've said 100 times from the age of 16 to 22. They're words like complex or responsibility or transient, or somebody is a transient, so they are, or like I was trying to describe earlier, another situation or a complex situation that is hard to describe, where people misunderstand or come to what they call misunderstandings for lack of information because of a complex idea that somebody cannot wrap their brain around, because they have intelligence issues where they cannot understand a bigger picture. So they try to make things like victim blaming or blaming the victim, because it's easier to understand a fictional story that somebody is making up that's a phrase or a mental illness. No, he's a fantasy teller, that's it. So we can just forget about it. But there's no proof if somebody is a fantasy spinner. We have no proof that I'm not telling the truth. We have video evidence of something. If I say that there is leaks in my ceiling, okay, I can walk into court, boom, 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 say there is water coming from my ceiling down with ceiling tiles coming on our head. I can walk into court and say we got waterfalls coming down our walls from the window for 6 years. Then we'll say my father or my tenant, or sorry, not my tenant, my landlord or somebody says I am a fantasy spinner. But then I provide proof, video proof, that when it rains, there are waterfalls coming in my window. I show video proof of water coming through my ceiling in gallons. I show video proof of the ceiling tiles falling down on the floor for multiple years. But what if nobody wants to see the video proof? Am I supposed to put it on YouTube, hang myself, and leave the video footage for my 84-year-old roommate so he doesn't have to die? Is that what has to be done in this country? Is you have to walk into the federal government, you have to frickin' do something rash, and then you have to have a whole paper trail in somebody else's hand, like an attorney or another person in your family holding on to the proof? If I need medical care and I have epilepsy, and teachers have written stuff about it, and I was brought to Texas, and my mother tried to bury those teachers and those doctors. And then the doctors in Texas heard me speak about this overdose, but my mother said it never happened. She doesn't remember it. And then she takes me out of school, takes me out of the doctors, and moves me to a place in New Mexico. But that place in New Mexico has a big problem where they have a big black man strangling little girls in the shower, and I'm a little boy, and I'm getting strangled on the strangle couch, and horrible things are going on with food poisoning and awful stuff. And this is just a cabin up in the mountains in New Mexico, and they're going to build a program, but the place isn't built yet. They're gonna build a pool. They're going to build some places for the kids to sleep. They're going to build a bunch of stuff. They're going to get a teacher. But until then, they're going to drain my father. I'm going to go without an education. I'm going to go without the things I need. Because the place isn't going to be built for 4 more years, and I'm out of there in 18 months. So that's a problem. But my father sues, gets most of his money back, and then decides he's going to buy and sell properties in Maine, and I'm not going to get an education either. So with all these problems happening, am I fantasizing about these problems I have? The 4 years of missing education, the fact I can't drive, the fact when I go to work I get injured, but then when my work tells me to get a diagnosis, they say, we need paperwork on why you're having epileptic seizures, why you can't move your arms at time, and why you can't walk to work in the cold. And then I go into the doctors and they go, you have a problem with cold for 25 years where your muscles lock up and then you can't move? Yep, and sometimes I go unconscious and I wake up on the side of the road. It's been happening all the way since I was age 8 years old, 7 years old. Ever since the overdose. Before that, I was fine. And the doctor's like, what overdose? Oh, at 7 years old, I had an overdose. My mother called it an allergy attack, and it destroyed my nervous system. The teachers in school were calling me in the hallway, asking why my body suddenly changed. I was moving my legs forevermore in a changed way where they would shake a little. I was bumping in the furniture forevermore. My arms were bumping in the stuff forevermore. My speech sounded funny forevermore. Don't I sound kind of funny and weird for a 32-year-old male? I sound kind of weird, don't I? Well, that can be fixed with epilepsy medication. My voice gets lower, normal, less high-pitched. I have less slurs in it with just medication for epilepsy. I think my last bottle says it right on the bottle. I had that in my wallet, but most of them do have it. And I'll just show you the medication. Yeah, you know what? My wallet's better to do this. And I don't have... Anyway, so... Here, this one will do. No, I don't want my name shown. But oxycarbazine, that is the one for epilepsy. And if you've seen my videos, you would see that the other one I showed with my name on it and my doctor's name on it like I shouldn't, and some other information I don't want to give you, also says for epilepsy. Now, how long has this been going on? 25 years. Well, why can't I go to work then? Why can't I use a shelter? Why can't I just go get Social Security? Why can't I get any type of financial assistance? What's the problem here? Because I have other people involved who are trying to hide their mistakes. So when the doctor tries to look up information regarding my case and how to help me, they get a bunch of bullshit. That's a fantasy bullshit that says I'm a fantasy bullshit. They're lying about me lying, so it gets all confusing. What do they mean? I mean, my mother and father would lie through their teeth to doctors before I even knew what was going on. My mother was lying and covering up her mistakes before me or my father even knew what she was doing. She's dead now, too. She took so much drugs and alcohol, and my father helped her even cover it up to the end. My mother was drinking with liver failure. My mother had 20% of her liver only working. She was in the hospital going through liver treatments on the liver transplant list. The doctors agreed to let her go home for 1 day only to say hi to her son, me. She told the doctors she wanted to come home to see me, her son. But she was lying to the doctors to get to the liquor cabinet. Now, this is very common. Now, I took 3 months of classes. Now, these are special classes at Taunton TSS. They are college-level courses, and you even get a degree when you graduate the program. And if you stay sober for a whole entire year after the 90 days of nonstop, they pound you with classes. Classes in the morning, classes in the afternoon, classes at night. 5-6 days a week, 3 months straight, 90 days straight, and you live in this place. You eat, sleep classes. You eat, sleep classes. You learn everything you need to ever know about addiction. And then you can work helping other addicts. That's the whole program. You learn and you help other addicts. I came home And one thing I can clearly see is that my father is a drunk. He's an alcoholic, and they will eventually quit drinking if he takes enough Ativan. As long as they up his dose of Ativan, he'll just keep on taking Ativan in its place. But he's always going to need something, but that's okay because he's a functioning alcoholic. That's okay then. He doesn't hurt anybody else with his alcoholism. But my mother, who's dead, she was a real alcoholic. She was literally going through liver failure, and she comes home lying to the doctors about wanting to see her son. But how do I know that she's not trying to see her son? Because she comes right in the door, needing a liver transplant, 20% of her liver working, blows past her son. It's only been 10 seconds in the house, goes right for the liquor cabinet, pulls out a bottle of vodka, makes it extra strong, by the way. She makes it more stronger than she normally makes them. It's a lot lighter with the vodka color than normal. Then she goes and sits down and starts drinking and doesn't say a word to anybody. While my father cowers in the kitchen, trying to come up with how he's going to hide and how he's going to wait through her drinking. I'm going to hide in the kitchen until she's finished drinking her martini, and then I'll deal with this. Meanwhile, I go in the kitchen and tell my father, hey, you guys told me you'll smack me around, you'll drug me if I tell you guys what to do. You guys told me it's never my place, even if you guys turn 100 years old and I'm 50 years old, I will never get to tell you what to do. But I got to tell you to do something right now. You need to stop Mom from drinking with liver failure. She's on the liver transplant list, and she's drinking an extra large martini made of mostly vodka with her liver failing at 20%. My father decided he would go over and nicely ask her in her ear if she could stop or do something like that as she continues drinking. And I just can't watch all this nice behavior. Go over and smash that glass in the sink. Smash it. Take that glass and smash it in the sink is what I was trying to get him to do. And instead, he's like, hey, finish your drink and we'll deal with this later. Something whispered in her ear about stopping in a minute. Finish your drink and stop in a minute. So yeah, my mother was a raging alcoholic. I had to watch this, and my father even hid that from the doctors. The next morning, she's back in the emergency room, falling out of bed all night. My dad has to rush her to the emergency room in the morning, of course, because she spent the night drinking. And of course, she went upstairs where her pill closet was, where she kept her opiates, and seeing as she fell on the way to the bathroom, she said, but the bathroom, I was in the other room. She didn't go anywhere near the bathroom. She was near the closet. So she tried to make it to the closet to take some pills. That's what I think, because I knew my mother really well. She kept a whole pharmacy of drugs to get high off them. She had my old Xanaxes, and she did take them. She was taking my old Vicodin, and I caught her, and my father caught her taking them, but my father allowed her to take my Vicodin like it was no big deal. Yes, the emergency room needed to prescribe me Vicodin because I was falling on the ground with extreme migraines, and the emergency room didn't know what to do other than giving me Vicodin. So they gave me Vicodin. I went home. My mother said she wanted to keep on to it, what I had no problem with, until the bottle was going missing, until half the pills were missing, and the count was way, way off. There was at least 7 missing from the bottle, and the bottle wasn't big to begin with. And my mother continued taking these, and it was like a big game to her. And my father was like, no big deal. It's okay if your mother steals your Vicodin. But she also had pink opiates, lots of them. But the bottles were all empty. She had a couple empty bottles, and she had scripts that were like 3 left in them. What looks like what she had left over for savings. And I used to watch her drink these pink opiates with alcohol. She would pour herself for like her second drink, go upstairs, take some of these pink opiate pills, and pop 2 or 3 of them